Steering wheel, somebody tell him to give it to me.
There's something loose between my legs.
I don't know. Let go!
I'm heavier than a freaking boat.
Nothing you can say can make that any better.
Yeah, nobody.
No more radio for the rest of the race.
I'm going home.
Hello and welcome to DRS FC, an F1 podcast by some soccer nerds. I'm André Carlisle here with Donald Wine, Ebony Christmas, and Meghan Dooley. How are y'all?
Doing great. It was my birthday, but This race was not the gift that I was expecting, but it was a gift nonetheless. So I thank the FIA for that.
Doing well, coming back from being sick. And you know what? I could have stayed sick. I could have missed out on some of this.
Doing good. I don't know what this race was. If we could have a do-over, I would prefer it.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think Donald is the only person on the planet that just said thanks to the FIA. So we're going to get into it. As I mentioned in the intro, I said we're an F1 podcast by soccer nerds, and as soccer nerds, we are very familiar with the concept of referees with main character energy, and that's kind of what the FIA has decided to do in this race. I don't really understand what the hell was going on, or how a wing mirror just completely derailed what could have been a really exciting race, but I feel like, and we're going to talk about that, like that's the first thing that we need to talk about. Let me set this up, though, because this has been the problem with the FIA. It's just been a clusterfuck of an organization for quite a while, I think, but it's gotten worse because they've just decided randomly toward the end of an F1 season, the longest that there's ever been, by the way, to just start firing people. I heard that somebody was fired via text message. Like, they've just been wilding out, clearing house for no good reason. What this has done is left a somewhat, I'll say in terms of F1 race director, he's inexperienced. But this isn't really on him. He's done F2, he's done F3 before. But they fired the race director for, I believe, an F2 race who was going to step in there, but she never got to do a race because they fired her. So on this weekend, this man had to be a race director for F1 Academy, an F2 race, and then the F1 race. Probably a little tired. Probably a lot of decisions need to be made. Probably a lot of things to try to figure out. These things are tough.
Do they not have like the timeouts like they do for flight attendants and pilots? Because I feel like they should.
Apparently not. This man's just been working every single day trying to organize races and from junior levels all the way up to the Grand Prix level. And that's where the most crazy shit happened, which was just a wing mirror on the track, and they just left it there for multiple laps. It flew off of Albon's car, which we can talk about Williams mechanics. We said it in the preview. Don't blame Williams mechanics for nothing. Those dudes, they're more overworked than the race director. But like, I just, how this ruined the race. There was something that seems so simple. I am so confused and I'm so frustrated because it feels like this sport, we talked about it in just about every single episode that we've done. $1 million sport, $1 billion sport. How do you let something so simple fuck up an entire race?
I think, first of all, a reminder, if you can be in a union, you should be in a union. And my friend, the race director, get you a union, buddy. We need some protections for you. I'm so sorry. The other thing I want to bring up, André has perfectly recapped the craziness that's gone into all these firings. But the other thing is that, like, in addition to it being an absolute mess, they're also just not treating it seriously. The drivers got together and laid out what was a pretty fire letter, but also very well considered. And the FIA has just not responded. They have made no indication that they're going to take into advisement any of those things. And in fact, the president of the FIA has come back and said, well, I'm a driver, I understand their concerns, and has not talked to any of them. So like, they're not even taking concerns that are being raised directly to them, much less the fan experience and the competition aspect of these things. And if I was a driver, I just can't imagine how frustrated I would feel today to not only have had my safety put into question through some very poor decision making, but also to just feel like the competitive balance isn't fair.
I would argue that they did give us a response. They gave us that response. That race I don't think we like the response, but it's a response nonetheless, and it shows that, like, FIA, look, you cannot fire people in the middle of a season and expect things to get better. No, like even NFL teams, they do it because they know they need to change something, but no one actually expects them to get back into it, right? Like, this is something where if you were going to fire everybody and you were going to give us that race that we saw today, then you shouldn't have fired nobody. You should just let them stay terrible at their job and address it in the offseason when you have time to review it and kind of go over and get people prepared. But yeah, like André said, you cannot have some dude chalking up 3 races in a row and expect a mirror, of all things, a mirror derails an entire race. Like, that's like, come on now, like, everybody got to get fired for that after the season. We got one more week, but everybody got to be held accountable for the fact that a mirror is what messed all this up.
Well, and it's just terrible timing because there have been rumors for the last 6 to 8 months that Liberty Media is not happy with the FIA and that they feel like the product is being negatively impacted because of the competitive issues and because of the refereeing, for lack of a better word. And so there have been rumors that Liberty Media is just going to say, like, sorry, we're not participating in the FIA anymore. Formula One's just going to be its own thing. We'll pay for stewards. We'll pay for race directors on our own time. And I can't imagine that this is what the FIA needed to happen to assuage those fears. Liberty Media does not want to leave money on the table in their investment. And they now have all of the ammunition that they need to be able to say, hey, you guys can't act right, then we're just going to pick up and go home.
I mean, looking at this race alone, all of the safety cars that happened, but then after you finished the one safety car, there was either immediately another safety car or a virtual safety car or something that led to a huge penalty because drivers were afraid to do something, so they did the wrong thing or something like that. Like, the amount of crashes that happened after a safety car was insane. And then we'll talk about the double yellow here in a little bit, I'm assuming. So it just wasn't what you wanted to see the second to last race of the season, where you should be like wrapping it all up. Like, yep, we figured it out for the next season. Max has already won. Like, we've got a constructors championship still to go, but things are pretty short up here. Like, we're ready to get into the off season and get the changes going. And that's not what happened. Everyone's still looking around like, what the fuck? Like, how do you let all of these things happen within like 30 laps? It wasn't even like it was like safety car, 20 laps, safety car. It was literally like all within that middle portion of the race, and it just kind of killed everything. Like, there was a battle for a second.
Right. They messed up a battle for second. It was
messed up a battle for eighth.
Right in the middle of a pit window, right before that. Okay, so I got a couple things I want to say real quick. The president of FIA, Mohammed bin Sulayem. All right, let's talk about this dude for a second. Because one of the things that really bothers me about him is that he's always like, I was a racing driver. I know what I'm talking about. Okay, all right, here's the thing. You can go to his Wikipedia page and you can see he raced. Not to give him, disparage him in any way, but Middle East Rally Championship, that's where he did all of his racing. Okay. He won a lot there. He won with a Toyota Celica, which I used to own one of those. They're dope. So I'm not mad about it. Like, he did all his racing there.
Weird that the guy with unlimited resources swept the racing series in his home part of the world. Strange how that happens. Wow.
Interesting, isn't it? Very, very fascinating. How fortuitous that happened. He's probably very confused about why Lance Stroll can't win a race. But here's the other thing with him. He did get into an F1 car once in 2009. There was a promotional event, and he got into a Renault, and he crashed it. He was racing against a Ford GT, and he crashed it. All right? This is not a dude who is on the level of an F1 driver. So every single time he's like, nah, I'm a driver. They can leave me alone. I know what I'm talking about. That's just bullshit. So he needs to stop that, because nobody's buying that. Dude, you have a Wikipedia page and we can all see it. It's free. That's the whole thing about Wikipedia. And okay, so the other thing I want to do is set up what exactly happened, what this wing mirror did. If you didn't see the race or whatever, we could just talk about all the impacts that it had. Here's the thing. It flew off of Albon's car and was on the track. It was basically toward the end of the main straight. And it was just laying there. It was off the racing line, but it was just laying there for multiple laps. Nobody did anything. We have seen stewards run out and grab debris off of a track before, and it was right at the pit entrance, basically. If you could have just had somebody run out there and get it. But obviously, cars are going around the track. Very, very dangerous to just run out there. That's why God made safety cars. That's why God made virtual safety cars. Slow them down, get somebody out there, take the mirror. That didn't happen. So Bottas is coming around. Bottas gets a blue flag. When you get a blue flag, it means you're about to be lapped and you need to stay out of the way of the car that's on the lead lap. So he dips down off the racing line because he sees a blue flag and he runs over the mirror. So not only did they let it sit there, they blue flagged the driver, which basically steered him right into the mirror, and the mirror just shattered. And then what are mirrors made out of? Glass. Okay, now we have a bunch of glass on the track. Guess what? Lewis Hamilton gets a puncture. Carlos Sainz gets a puncture. Then, because there are punctures to tires, then you get your safety car. And it's just like, and then they get really strict with a lot of the rules. So then Lando Norris gets a penalty because he didn't slow down when they did the double waving yellow at the end of the straight, because that's basically like, hey, there's a big problem up front. Like ahead of you, you need to slow down. He says he didn't see it, but I can kind of understand where he's coming from, because when you see double wave yellows, it's usually like there's a car off, somebody's in a wall, something bad. Like you'll see the problem. And he was going to drive until he saw the problem. The problem was just a wing mirror. So like he was just like, I don't see it. I'm fighting for first. I'm rolling. And then all other sort of penalties get levied because of this. I'm not going to go through them all, but basically it just really messed up the race. Lewis and Carlos had to pit. They came out late. Lewis was at the bottom, was at the back of the pack, and then Lando had to serve his penalty. Then he was behind. They made up some ground, but not a ton, because again, like Ebony said, it was kind of towards the middle of the race and all this happened anyway. So we were really robbed of the great racing spectacle at a track that really isn't built to have a great racing spectacle. And it was all because the FIA fired a bunch of people, put people in position where a detached wing mirror fucked up an entire race.
And I want to talk a little bit just about Lando's specific penalty, because I know that that's probably the most controversial decision that got made today. And the part that makes the FIA incompetency so frustrating is that then it makes things like what happened with Lando seem like incorrect decisions when they're probably the correct decision, but you don't trust that the decision maker is making good decisions. So for those of you who aren't aware, if a yellow flag goes out, it means caution, and drivers need to take their foot off the gas. Now, ideally, they would straight up slow down, but they're all competitive motherfuckers. So what they've decided is that as long as your foot is not on the gas, and they have all this data where they can see that you have taken your foot off the gas, that they will consider that you slowing down. If it's a double waved yellow, what that means is that you have to be ready to imminently stop. And that normally means that there is someone physically on the track. Like André said, it was kind of a hard situation because a steward hypothetically could have run out and gotten that wing mirror. And in the perfect world, if they did a virtual safety car fast enough, maybe that would have happened. But there wasn't enough space between the cars because it's such a small circuit for them to comfortably send somebody out, because they didn't do a freaking virtual safety car. But Lando, because he was in like competition brain, did not take his foot off the gas. And he claims he didn't see it, but the problem with that is if you watch the footage, he has the double yellow flag on his steering wheel. So like whether or not he didn't see the actual flag, it doesn't matter because the FIA is going to consider that kind of the thing. And Lando's actually come out after and said like that is the appropriate penalty. But the problem is fans don't know to trust that. Like if you don't know all that backstory of why the double yellow is different and why it's important, you can't trust that an organization that's making bad decisions is making a correct decision. It is really punitive. It is like a hard penalty. But the reason they have to do that is because if drivers don't pay attention to that specific flag, someone will die. We don't have it happen anymore, but we have had stewards and we have had volunteers die in the past, and they need people to pay attention. And also the drivers do not want to be injured either. Like if your car hits something, or God forbid a person, like the driver is not going to be okay either. Something terrible is going to happen. And so it's really hard because on one hand, I'm like, God damn it, they did the right decision, and it sucks for Lando. On the other hand, I'm like, how are we at all supposed to trust that they're making the right decisions? And I will give Lando, this is uncommon for me, I will give him the smallest amount of props that he immediately came out and was like, yeah, I did a dumb thing. And all of them have done that before. Max has gotten in trouble before. Lewis has gotten in trouble for it before. And it's a really annoying punitive penalty every time it happens, but is one of the ones that they have to be strict on to avoid anything like super terrible happening at a race.
I was going to say that type of rule or penalty is a statutory one. Like it does not matter. Like, you know, you can't be a little bit pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not, right? Like, so if the answer is yes, then bam, penalty. Like that's how they do it. And so you can say, yes, it's a statutory penalty. You know, did you have yet double yellow? Then it was a double yellow. They don't make it right. And it'll make it the right thing to do, right? It doesn't mean that the FIA is absolved of everything, right? Because they put all the drivers, not just Lando, in that situation. And yeah, even like you have to, you know, even put blame on the crew, right? Like the pit, they gotta be like, hey man, you're in a double yellow, slow down. Like I know it just came on, you might have missed it, but double yellow, hit the brakes. So there's a lot of people who are at fault here, but that doesn't mean the FIA can walk and be like, see, right decision. The thing is, I don't even know if it was the right decision. I don't care. It's the fact that they did a dumb thing by letting that happen. And again, making it where, again, a wing mirror. This is not a whole car where people can see. They have to recognize, and if MBS is such a driver, he would know that what can you see when you're driving down a street? You can see a huge sheet of ice, right? You see the huge sheet of ice coming down the road. You go, hey, I'm going to slow down, or I'm going to, get into the left lane and get around it. What can you not see? What do they teach you in driver school if you're in the north that you cannot see? Black ice. You know what black ice looks like? Looks like a wing mirror that's on the side of the road that you can't see until you run over. Same with like roadkill, like stuff like that. You see that, you run over, you go, what was that? And I'm sure that's what Bottas did. And that means that if he couldn't see it when he ran over it, that means the other guys couldn't see it when they were driving towards it. And that is an FIA problem. That is not on the drivers. The penalty might be a penalty, but that doesn't mean that it's right for the drivers.
Oh, 100%. And I'll also say two things. One, I just want to point out that you started by saying MBS would know. He did not grow up in the north, so I don't know that he's ever driven on ice before. But we would hope that he'd have an equivalent of like a camel. I don't. That sounds terrible.
Sand operates in the same way.
Megan,
right?
you forget he's a driver, so
that's
surely
right.
He's the most experienced driver there's ever been.
I will say one of my I don't want to call it a conspiracy theory, but like, I don't trust technology as far as I can throw it kind of thing, is that one of the things that a lot of these teams have been doing is that they have an automatic protocol that if a double yellow or a black flag or a red flag comes out, that they push a button and it notifies all their drivers, and it's like a pre-recorded statement to tell them. I'm going to tell you, I am so nervous about the day that something malfunctions with one of those. They did almost have it happen for Red Bull when Romain Grosjean had his crash, which actually was 3 years ago, yesterday.
I think 3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
3 years ago yesterday. They had a moment where I think it was one of the, at the time, AlphaTauris didn't completely come up, but they happened to see the flag, so it was fine. And stuff like that, where like the FIA, you have to get the decision right that leads to them needing to have that flag, because if something happens, like Swiss cheese theory, one thing going wrong in the system, one team not notifying fast enough, one driver not noticing fast enough could be catastrophic and loss of life. And it's unacceptable, like Donald said, that they got to the position where they even had to do the yellow flag. I just wanted to mention like that specific penalty, because at least for me, it's pretty confusing, the difference between like, why is that such a big penalty if you're not super thinking about it, at least in my opinion. Like, it'd be pretty easy to be like, whatever, he wasn't going that fast. But yeah, it's just like ridiculous.
It can't be a recorded statement either, right? Like, it has to be an alarm, something that goes off that is separate from the rest, that they know that something bad is coming, that something bad is imminent ahead of them, and they need to take the measures immediately to stop. In an airport, when you're waiting for your boarding group, and then they have another flight call for Group C, and you have a bunch of people talking over each other, can you hear any of that? No, that's the same thing as this recorded statement that would come in over somebody talking to their driver. But if you have an alarm, guarantee they hear that, and I guarantee that they would take the measures to stop, or at least to immediately, ameliorate the situation. But again, I say all that to say the FIA knew that was a problem, did not correct it, led to all this. And the fact that the blame is kind of being placed on Lando and the other drivers is stupid, because when history looks back at this, right, they're not going to look back at the fact that a wing mirror caused all this. They're going to say, wow, all these dudes committed all these penalties. It was a really sloppy race. It was a sloppy race, but the FIA is the direct result of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, there are a lot of things that we could talk about in terms of how should things work a little bit better. This is the most prestigious racing championship, like, in the world. It's certainly the most expensive. There can be a lot of upgrades in terms of how you do certain things, how you communicate to all the drivers. We kind of saw that at Interlagos as well, making sure that everybody's on the same page. Remember that weird start thing that Max knew to stay there and everybody else took off? All it takes is just press a button, tell the drivers, stay put, we're going to redo this. That's it. But the FIA is so disorganized, they can't get that right. And clearly a wing mirror can just fuck up their entire day. So and the thing that really bothers me, and we do need to talk about the actual race because there are some things to talk about race-wise. So I just want to say this and then we'll get to it. A wing mirror being detached from a car and laying on track isn't great, right? That is something that, you could see potential for something catastrophic to happen. You also need to be careful and with how you manipulate the drivers on the track to make sure that it's safe for somebody to go pick it up. Understood. Having those decisions, those discussions, whatever. But you know what's worse than a wing mirror on the track? A shattered one. So they took a small problem that was like, all right, how do we handle this? And they debated it so long that it became a massive problem that didn't need to be a problem in the first place, that affected multiple drivers. And there's no my bad from the FIA. You can't just be like, oh, well, we'll just slot you back in. You take your pit stop, change your tires, and we'll just slot you back in. Like, those processes that's not how it works. If you don't make the decision and it's wrong, you mess up that driver's race. You mess up the entire race. And that's what ended up happening. So, okay, let's talk about the race that actually happened. Stop yelling at the FIA and Mohammed bin Sulayem and disparaging his great racing career and talk about the race, because there were some things that happened. And I want to get to that. So we're going to take a break. Be right back. All right. So I should mention, because it was a race, it was a thing that happened, it was a Grand Prix, and you'll be able to see the results and all that business. Max Verstappen won. Yay, whatever. It's just that's the respect he gets on this podcast. I'm sorry. If you've been listening, you understand, you knew that was coming. But as mentioned in the previous segment, we almost had a chance for Lando and Max to fight it out for the win of this Grand Prix. But then, of course, the penalty for Lando really messed that up. He ended up getting into points anyway, but he was way far away from where Max was. And it also had an impact on the Constructors' Championship, because McLaren and Ferrari are battling for that. So there are some points that weren't had by McLaren that would have been, especially if Lando in that McLaren is able to chase down Max or even just stay at number 2, there's a chunk of points that they would have. But, and I feel like before we get into talk about the Max Lando thing, because there's some Max Lando, George Russell stuff that we need to talk about, I feel like we just need to do the thing and that we were doing in the group chat. Do we need to start the chant?
Yes.
Joe points.
Joe points. Joe points.
Yeah, score points in the Grand Prix. Hell yeah! I was just like praying. I was like, nobody overtake him. Lando, I know you have a fast ass car and you're coming from the back. Don't fuck this up. Make sure Joe gets points. This was great to see. I was so happy about Joe getting points.
There was probably millions of people pointing empty pistols at TV. Says I pray to God, don't pass him. Move, back up. It was great. That was great. And if you think about it, as for Sauber's first points of the season, they almost got two drivers in there, because Bottas was was flirting with number 10 for
Lando
several
got
laps.
Him, though. That was the problem.
yeah. Lando had to pass him and then end up winning by 12 seconds or something like that. But hey, Bottas gave it the old college try for a good 10 laps, and it provided a little bit of drama for the Sauber team.
We even got Sassy Bottas, who has recently posted a Instagram piece calling out the FIA for screwing up his race. At the very end, it was kind of like and done for Gretchen Wieners. He was like, and my teammate, good job, love it, great on the points. So we appreciate a king who can both lift up his teammate and also stomp on the FIA. But truly, we are not kidding. The group chat was literally just all of us spamming Zhou for like 15 minutes.
I do want to talk about the beginning of the race because it pissed me off.
Let's go.
It pissed me off so much because Max got that stupid penalty where he was dropped back a grid place, and so they start the race. It's Russell, and then Max, and then Lando. So Russell gets a really good take, gets off really well. Pause. And he's going, and he takes the inside because he knows that's what Max likes to do, and then he gives it right back. And so then Lando's coming up right behind him, and it looks like it's going to be a little bit of a fight because Lando also knows that Max really loves to overtake on that first turn on the inside. And then he just backs off. And then they go into the second turn, and it's like, oh, they're side by side. And then he just doesn't do anything. So then there goes Max off into the sunset. Then we get our first safety car. And after that, it was just like, whatever. The battles are after one. Because there was a small portion where he was gonna battle him towards the end of the race. And then he had a service penalty. But other than that, no one really challenged Max after that first 2 seconds going into turn one. And that pissed me off so much.
That turn 2 is exactly why they need to fix whatever rules they have, because Max did it again. It's just that Lando backed out of the move, that it didn't look as egregious. If Lando stays with his foot flat and tries to take that turn, Max either runs into him or Lando is going way off the track. You're supposed to give space, or at least that should be the rule.
There's a right away type of thing.
Yeah. You have a car beside you, leave space. That's how you get wheel-to-wheel racing.
Lando was ahead. And because he didn't want to crash to ruin his constructors, he backed off.
Yep.
That I would have been like, nope, you're going to have to make sure the FIA, fix this because I'm taking my race and I'm doing it my way. And if Max hits me, Max hits me. And you're going to have to make sure that you punish him correctly.
And that's the whole problem. This is what's been going on with Max for years. Is he gets in that position, and when a car's trying to overtake him on the outside, he'll stop doing the turn. He'll just go veer straight and run that car off, and then he'll be like, all right, now I can make that corner. Now I can make the turn. He does it all the time, and he did the exact same thing. No penalty. They didn't even look at it because Lando backed out. And I get it. Lando, he's trying to get a Constructors' Championship. He's trying to play the team game, as we'll talk about in the sprint. He's really trying hard to be like, I'm a good teammate. So there's a lot of that going on. But somebody just has to take one for the team in this situation and be like, Max just plowed straight into me. You saw it. This is the problem with allowing him to race like this. If you don't give space and you allow him to continue to take up all that space and run into cars, this is what you're going to get. If you want wheel-to-wheel racing, you have to allow the car on the inside has to allow some space, at least for the other driver to keep his wheels on the track, or at least one set of wheels on the track, so that you can have that. Remember in the sprint race, which we'll talk about, but that multi-corner Lewis and Charles battle, that was dope. They were so close to each other and they were weaving in and out of multiple turns. That was exciting. That's what we want to see. Max never lets it get to that point.
And the thing about Verstappen is he gets the weird role now. He gets to play spoiler after winning a championship. And Lando, he thinks they're boys, but on the track, he knows that if there's someone he's going to take out first, it's him. So that's why he backed off.
Well, and like, not to be a broken record for the like 11th consecutive episode, but you have no killer instinct, Lando. Like, if you're gonna do it, be about it. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, if you want to be a big boy and you want to say that you're the team leader, then you have to stick in there and you can't just back out. You have to make the other person consider backing out. And I'm gonna be honest, this whole like, oh, I'm a good teammate thing. Sorry, I would be more disrespected by my teammate for effing around. Sorry, I was like, can we curse? And I just got in my head about it. Fucking around and like spoiling away not only our championship, but now potentially the chance for you to be in second, because Ferrari is now creeping up there and Charles is now potentially going to overtake him for second driver. And I would just be more disrespected by them screwing up my season earlier in the season, and then this guy can't even go out and do and be about it.
He's just got to I don't know what Lando needs to do, but it ain't this. And like you said, like he was the first one off the gas. You see that turn and you see like Russell at least was trying to like kind of weave his way in there. Yeah. And Lando was kind of trying to weave his way in there. And Lando was the first one like, but again, it's the, you know, PTSD of every single time anyone tries to go after Max, they're the ones that get penalized. And it's happened to Lando how many times in the last 2 months, right? So he's probably like, nope, I can't risk it because I know I'm going to lose points. And so let me just back off. But again, like, yeah, I still think that he needs to be the one. Hey, you're making a turn. You want to come at me? I'm hitting the turn even harder. And you're going to run into me. And then I'm going to be running to the FIA and be like, he did it. Because guess what? Guess what big boy pants involves Max every single time something like that doesn't go his way. Look what he did. Look over there. That guy did it. He snitches every single time. And Lando's just kind of like, I don't want to be involved in that. Max is just like, he did it.
We got to get to Max and his blind spot in terms of how much he snitches on other people. But I see, Megan, you wanted to get in here.
Well, I was just going to say, and not to absolve Max, who like 100% is wrong in this scenario and should not be allowed to keep doing this. But Lando, he just got penalized for doing it in Mexico. So there should be even more reason to believe that if you hold your ground, he's going to be penalized. Like, we have said, the FIA sucks and the stewards are not consistent. And that is a continued heartbeat of this podcast. We fully believe that. However, you have to give them the chance to do it. You can't just be like, oh, they're not going to do it. You have to force their hand.
We call it lemon booty. That's what he had.
Listen, okay. We talk a lot about a player, you know, in soccer who needs that dog in him. Like, and I always say this with a number of players in England that I think are super talented. This is specifically women's soccer. There's a number of players that I identify that I feel like you just need to come and play in the NWSL for like a season or two. You just need a little bit of dog in you. You need to learn how to scrap. What is the racing equivalent of the NWSL? Because that's where Lando needs to go. Like, he needs to find the NWSL equivalent of a racing championship and spend a season or two there so he can come back with a little bit of dog in him, because I don't see none.
Is it his TV at home? I don't know.
He needs an OC welcome to Chino bitch moment. I don't know what the equivalent of that would be. I don't know. Go fight in the MMA or something. Do something where you get hit. You're a rich kid.
Do they have a racing program in San Quentin? Like, put them with the dogs, man. Like,
he said a little bit of dog in him.
Yeah, I was going to say a little bit. I don't know him, like, you know, like a straight up prison tat Lando. I don't know if the world is ready for that.
He has negative dog right now, so he might need to get, you know, go all the way over here to get like average out to get a little bit.
You said acceleration program? That's crazy.
Shoe program.
I appreciate Ebony thinking like IndyCar. My brain went to NASCAR because they'll just run into you for no reason. Like, so I think like maybe.
Yeah, NASCAR might be the race. Yeah.
Honestly, go live with Kimi Räikkönen, right? Like, go live with an OG who will not tolerate it. Go live with Max's dad, right? Like,
don't do that.
No,
I mean, we don't want to inflict generational trauma, but I'm just saying, like,
don't do that.
Do something.
Nobody should live with Max's dad, not even Max's dad.
NASCAR might be the style because, as we know in NASCAR, they squabble weekly. Yeah. And they'll squabble over the dumbest thing, but they be squabbling because they know, hey, you're taking food off my plate and I'm trying to eat. And that's what he needs to understand when it comes to any of these guys, especially Max. Because Max is that guy who's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
He needs to be at that level if he wants to challenge him. And the problem is he's boys with him, so he shows up and he's like, I'm not gonna mess up my friend, and also they're not gonna believe me anyway. He just needs to one day just be like, nah, I'm alpha. And right now he's not driving like an alpha.
All right,
Can we
let's
do
talk about
rally
these.
car or truck car?
Rally,
a
I
funny
was
car?
thinking
Yeah.
about rally car. Rally car could be it. I'm not sure. Like I need to learn more about like some of the drivers championships that are out there, like the different series, because I'm sure like the NASCAR thing is just because I live in this country and it's just like one of the first things that comes to my mind. But there might be one where there's like a little bit more dog producing, and maybe you get something that's more similar to like that's more helpful to the F1 racing experience. I don't know if being in a stock car going in an oval is going to really help him with the F1 car.
I got it. It may not help his actual driving on the F1 circuit, but I got the dog part. Monster truck rally. He needs to do just 2 of those, and he's set. Promise you he comes back a changed man.
Yo, listen, that would be the most boring. Like he'd have the most boring segment in the whole monster truck thing because he wouldn't go up no ramps, he wouldn't crush no cars. He'd just roll up to the side of him, park it really nicely, and then get out. That's
Bigfoot would just drive right, just launch right into him like a linebacker, like blindsiding somebody, and be like, "Yo, bro, welcome to the monster truck," and then he'll get it.
Listeners, please write in with your Lando Norris monster truck name. We would love to hear what your thoughts are.
Please do. All 15 of you, please do. All right. I do want to get back to this race because I do think there is something that we need to talk about for Max. Another thing, and yes, this is kind of like a Max hater area. Like, I don't know, like just this, we respect the talent. All right. I just want to say that up front, make sure people know we ain't just hating and don't think he's good. Obviously you respect the talent, but the thing that gets on my nerves about Max so much is just like in Brazil, when he thinks he's being picked on, which is his definition of being picked on is they won't let me do what I want to do. When he thinks he's being picked on and he's being given penalties or something like that, then he responds and he performs extremely well. Why do you need that? You have the capacity, and we've seen it. You're really, really good. But I knew as soon as he got that, he lost pole position because they said he impeded George. George was definitely making a bit of a meal of it on the track and definitely making a meal of it on the radio, saying, oh, he got in my way. It wasn't even during one of his flying laps. It was a prep lap that he was on. He was doing 2 out laps. That was the second one. And by definition, though, I was listening to people who like on the telemetry, you could see Max was driving much slower. He was not doing the minimum lap time. So yes, you were driving slow. That was a driver who was battling with you directly for pole position, and you made him kind of avoid you, dip a wheel in the gravel, and that's a bit of a problem when you're trying to put in your fastest lap. Grip is important. Everybody knows this. So this was the problem that he ended up having. And then after he got pole position, all of that, they looked at it. The stewards looked at it and said, okay, 1 place penalty, grid penalty for Max, which gave George pole position. Max started second. As soon as I heard that, I was like, Max is winning this race. That's it. Like, I know he's going to win this race, not just because he had pole position, but because whenever he feels like he's been victimized or he's aggrieved at something, this is the kind of performance he puts on. And then he was mad at George for seemingly snitching on him or trying to like build this case towards like to get the penalty on Max. And then he does the same thing to Lando about the yellow flags. He was the first one on the radio that was like, and I'm like, Max, do you not understand how much you whine during the course of a race? If another driver does anything, and he sees it, he's on his radio telling his Red Bull team to investigate that or look into that. He's always snitching. He's always the one, like, it's like he has the rule book memorized or tattooed to his eyelids. He always is the one to point out who's breaking some sort of rule. I talked about it in Brazil. And remember when they aborted the formation lap and we're going to do it again? He was like, they're moving. Yeah, Max, we can see. All right, we got it. Like, take it easy. But he's like that kid in class who's always snitching on everybody.
He's like, ooh.
Exactly. And then he tries to call out George for doing that. And I'm like, buddy, I know about blind spots. I don't know what you call this.
Max's Man City confirmed?
Ooh. Also, Max is the kid that reminds the teacher that we had homework over the weekend.
Yes.
or he does a reminder. He just presents the homework. I have my 37-page paper on astrophysics that we were supposed to do over the weekend, right? And everybody's like, bruh.
And
we ain't nobody asked you about that.
And he does it after overhearing classmates being excited that the teacher hasn't asked him for the homework yet. So he hears that, and then he's like, "Oh, y'all don't have your homework, teacher. I've got mine." Like, yeah, that's exactly homework. Max's energy.
Yeah, I think the interesting part is like this seems to be not only like a thing that Max repeatedly does, but he seems to genuinely not like George Russell in a way that like kind of goes past the way he treats other people. Obviously, he had a lot of spite for Lewis, and that I think had some racial elements to it. People on the internet will tell me I'm wrong for saying that, but whatever, you're wrong.
We ain't telling you that.
No, this podcast is right.
We're talking. We're right.
But it seems like he genuinely just like has beef with George Russell. It's kind of just like stray shots now. And I was listening to another podcast, P1 this afternoon, just like recapping the race. They were talking about if there's ever a George Max rivalry, like if they're really going 1 and 2, how fascinating that would be. Because although George does back out, I think George has a little bit more like FU energy towards Max because they are not buddies in real life. Like I think he would have more of a chance of kind of just being like shoving back. But also, I too would want to punch George Russell in the face if I'm being honest, right? Like he's not the most sympathetic character. He is like peak British posh boy. And I respect that for him. But he is a little bit of a whiny bitch from time to time. And when he first joined Lewis at Mercedes, he was very whiny. And now he's driver number 1. And I don't think he shows the whininess quite as much. So while Max definitely is that kid, I can understand that maybe everyone else in the class wants to punch George a little bit just for being that guy.
We will talk more about this in the off season, which is, I guess, just a week away. But I will say very quickly, 3/4 of this grid needs to develop some dog in the off season, and the quarter of the grid outside of Max that already has those dogs in them need better cars. That's what it is. Yeah. And it seriously enough, like we can have a beef all you want, but it doesn't matter if every time we can't have a Sharapova Serena situation. And that's what it kind of brews up to be. Everyone who steps up to Max, like I'm that dude. Max ain't shit. Max ends up beating him because he has a better car and he has more dog than him. The only person who has stepped to him in the last 10 years has been Lewis, and Lewis has won basically all those ones that he wasn't hampered by the FIA callback. But I think at the end of the day, all these guys can say what they want and they can have as much beef as they want with him. As long as he keeps snitching and he still has the dog to back it up, it doesn't matter. And so I think that's the great thing about this season is that more teams have stepped up the car aspect of things. But in every single race is the details that matter. And the biggest detail that has been lacking all season is the lack of dog.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was really excited about the 2025 season. I still am because this is the last year in a regulation set, and we've seen a lot of cars get really, really quick. Like Pierre Gasly finished 5th in an Alpine, and they just like closed their whole factory down, and all of a sudden, like Pierre Gasly is doing work on weekends, which is kind of nice to see. So that's fun. We talked about Zhou getting points, and yeah, it took a couple DNFs and some other luck maybe to get it, but still he put in good performances. I believe he out-qualified Bottas for I think only the second time this season. So like he's stepping up a bit in the car, and that's nice to see, even though he won't be on the grid in 2025. But there were some interesting other interesting things that happened during this race, and I'm just gonna like throw them out there, and whoever wants to like talk about any one of them, fine, but we also do need to get to like talk a little bit about the sprint race, and then we have Zoomy and Gloomy Boy, so we won't keep people too long in this. But it was a sprint weekend and we had a clusterfuck of a race. A lot happened. We're going to talk about it. You're listening to a podcast. What do you expect from us? But so we had Lance Stroll is back. The real Lance Stroll the one that we know, running into people. So he's back. That's the thing that happened. Unfortunately, Nico Hulkenberg also ran into somebody, which was really unfortunate to see. I think he started out on hard tires, and they just were not ready for him basically turning right. And so they didn't turn right. And so he ran straight into somebody, and that was a problem. We saw Colapinto. He didn't last very long in the race. And again, what did I say, Donald, in the preview? Thoughts and prayers to Williams mechanics. Like the last thing they need to see is another car being rolled back. This time it was in one piece, so that's good. But and it also wasn't Colapinto's fault. He kind of got pinballed around, and he took the brunt of it and spun out. And so there were a few things that were interesting, and I think we'll talk about Lewis Hamilton a bit, probably in Gloomy Boy, because I think we need to talk about him a bit because he was real sad this weekend, and I'm just really frustrated and annoyed that this is how his Mercedes career is ending because he deserved better than that. There was a point when this man literally on the radio asked, like, what are the times other people are doing? And they were like, oh, they're like a second and a half, 1.2 seconds ahead of you. And he's like, is my car broken? Like, it was the saddest thing I've heard. It was almost like, right. It was almost like you give a kid a toy for like Christmas and you don't buy the batteries and it's not doing the thing they expect it to do. And he's like, is it broken? What's wrong with it? It broke my heart. I was like, can y'all stop fucking with Lewis? It was so
you got the G.I. Joe and you're like, yo, I got the G.I. Joe. And everybody else got the G.I. Joe with Kung Fu grip. Right. And you're like, Why don't I get one of those?
Mine
like,
don't do that. Like, what's wrong?
Why don't
with
I
it?
get ice cream? Right?
Yeah,
like, I drive. Why don't I get the ice cream? And they're like, I don't know. I don't know, Lewis.
Man. I don't know what they're doing, but I hate it.
Can I talk about one other sad ending of a team and a driver?
Yeah, well, let's do it.
Okay, so Esteban Ocon, it is being rumored heavily, and honestly, I don't even think it's a rumor because the Alpine head on in interviews seemed to imply it was happening, will not be racing the final race with Alpine. I want to remind everybody, he's the only driver to ever win with Alpine being named Alpine, right? He has gotten that car, dragged it across the line to get points. And Pierre rightfully has done really well, but Esteban has not gotten any of the upgrades. And the upgrades are supposed to come for the final race. And they're going to not make a big deal out of him racing this today. They did not say anything about it before the final race to give him a chance to say goodbye publicly. Now he'll be on the grid next year, but to say goodbye to the team publicly. And instead, they're going to put a rookie who, by the way, I don't think is qualified enough to be in the car next year, but that's a whole other point. And they're going to give him time in the car. And I understand like the premise of that. He's going to crash. Like he's going to crash like the first turn. And by the way, you guys are in a freaking title fight. I mean, not like title, but you're in sixth right now.
Money fight. Yeah.
And you're going to take one of the good drivers you have and take him out and then take the other one and put his hand behind his back because he's not going to have a teammate that's going to help him. It's just baffling and it's really sad. Esteban is a very controversial human. A lot of people on the grid do not like him. Max, in fact, pushed him one time and got in some big trouble for it. But he deserves better than to have this happen. And I'm sure he was aware of it. It sounds like there's pretty bad blood, but that's still like very shitty behavior from a team that has not cloaked itself in glory lately.
Yeah, so it's going to be Jack Doohan. He's Australian. He's going to be driving for Alpine. He's supposed to drive for Alpine in 2025. But as Meghan just mentioned, is he really ready for this kind of step up? There are some question marks. And I have heard that there are rumors that if they can work out a deal, Alpine could hire Colapinto and have Doohan learn another year, maybe make him be a reserve driver until he's kind of ready to step in. So there's a lot of rumors, like like we said in the rookie season or whatever. Like the driver market is always on fire, and things can always change. So just because contracts are around, like we ain't even talked about Yuki Tsunoda, and again, somebody that Checo seat, I don't know who's getting it. I doubt Checo's going to be there. He seems to think so because he thinks his contract is like written in blood. It is not. So like there's a lot happening.
Liam Lawson, a guy that we all kind of thought was going to come in and kind of crush it because he was doing that, has just disappeared off the face of the earth. And he technically does not have a contract for 2025.
This is fun. As a lawyer, the whole contract thing where they're just like, what contract? and you can see the fire behind you. Like, what contract? I don't know. And it always happens to start with Red Bull, right? Red Bull's kind of been the thing about it. I also think Colapinto, man, he needs to use this to advantage. He needs to do better than Check's notes, 20th in the race and 18th in the sprint. If all these people cruiting him, he needs to show that he's worthy of the cruiting.
I'm gonna defend Franco a little bit, only because. Well, all right. So I was gonna defend him by being like, "Hey, they're having to put his car back together, but they're having to put his car back together because he keeps crashing it. So maybe I can't defend Franco."
Yeah, it's not just this week, right? Like we haven't seen him do a lot. And I think that's the thing about next year, right? When I say a lot of these guys need to develop some dog, I also mean all these people, these new kids that are coming on the block. Everyone's very excited about them, but until they decide they're going to try and drive with the big boys, it doesn't matter. Like that makes as a fan, you want the racing to matter. You want to tune in every week to say, hey, there might be a new winner. There might be some drama. There might be some racing. And it doesn't matter if it's like, John Gerard from Talladega Nights sipping tea while he's driving around the thing. And that's Max because he's, light years ahead of everybody else. You don't want that. And as you said, the TV people don't want that either. Netflix certainly doesn't want that. They want something to help them bring people in. These drivers need to develop the dog. All of them, including the young ones.
I think I heard that Williams mechanics and Williams drivers, collection of them, Franco plus Logan plus their, Albon, 16 crashes this season. 16. There are 24 races and they've only done 23 of them. That's a lot of crashes. That's having to put so like no wonder Albon's wing mirror just flew off. They like our budget is scrap. We put that thing on with Scotch tape. We don't have nothing else. Like our budget is.
They said I'm timed out. You want me to get that? You want to get that mirror? I'm timed out, baby. I can't do it.
Not them putting the mirror on Klarna. That's crazy.
No, honest to God, there's a rumor that they asked the FIA for a $40 million loan to make it through the end of the season.
Oh my God.
And I don't know how true that is. It's a rumor, but it's pretty wild. And I will also say conspiracy theory, I guess not really conspiracy theory, but more shitting on the FIA. Like the reason we're having so many crashes and we're having stuff like Perez, who obviously we think he's washed, but I don't think that crash was his fault today. Like I think the car broke on him. Stuff like that is happening because they're putting these ridiculous triple headers to end the season. And they're having these teams run against the cost cap, which I think in theory is a good idea. But if you're not raising the cost cap when you're adding races, of course shit like this is going to happen where they're going to be using gum and some fix-it to try to glue the shit together and do it within the time allowed.
I think Williams should race the last race of the season in a Pinewood Derby car. Pinewood Derby cars never break. Trust me.
I was thinking about the Checo crash because honestly, what was he?
Power, right?
Yeah, he said he just lost power.
His car over revs. So something went wrong with the engine, which does not appear to be his fault. To be notorious Checo hater. I don't think this one was his fault because he was doing pretty well up until that point. If you watch the playback, his car, you hear the engine rev and then all of a sudden he spins. Yeah. So it seems like something happened with the engine. I'm not technically smart enough to tell you. We need Deep D to tell us what was going on in the engine. But it seems like something went wrong. Who knows?
Let's go back to conspiracy theorizing because this is where I'm going to come from. You say you're a Checo hater. I'm a Dr. Helmut Marko hater. And I think Helmut Marko saw Checo. I think he was in 6th place at the time. He was kind of up there. He was that's where you expect him to be. And I think Marko hit the button. I think he was like, hell nah. He ain't going I'm not going to let Christian Horner save this dude one more time. We hit that button right there. That red one. Yeah, hit that. Cut his car off. And then all of a sudden he spins out. I honestly do not think it was his fault. There's a lot of dumb shit that Checo has done, including to the sprint race, which we need to talk about in a minute. But that made no sense. What happened to his car didn't make any sense. And when they had the onboard, you could just straight up hear it. The car was revved and then nope. And then he gets hit from behind and he's out. Listen, again, I don't know how, Donald, you're our lawyer, our resident lawyer. I don't know what slander laws are like or anything, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. To me, that was Helmut Marko calling the code red.
You're safe on this pod. If he's one of the 15, then we're about to be famous real quick. So win question mark.
I'm good with it. All right, let's take a quick break because we do need to get to the sprint race. There's only like a couple things to talk about there, but they are funny and we need to talk about them. And then we have the Zoomy Boy and Gloomy Boy. Not a ton of I'm sure there's some funny social media stuff, but we don't have a ton to talk about there. But we'll do the Zoomy and Gloomy Boy and sprint race chat in a bit. All right, let's talk about the sprint race because this is the other thing. Because the Grand Prix was so just royally messed up by the FIA and a wing mirror and all of that, we had a lot to talk about, but there's so much more because there was a sprint race. It was the last sprint race of the season. Sprint races kind of as they go. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not. In fact, this one, I looked up and they're like final lap and I was like, damn, already? So it was just that's kind of how it went, but it was fascinating. Lando Norris was playing the team game, working with Oscar Piastri to keep Oscar Piastri within his DRS range so that he could fight off George, which George really didn't like that post-race. George was not happy. He wanted to pass Oscar. And every time he got a chance, then they were on the radio like, hey, George almost got him. Back up. Let's get Oscar some DRS. And they did. So it was a nice teamwork from McLaren. Of course, nothing's on the line except the Constructors' Championship. When Lando could have been challenging Max, they weren't doing this shit. But okay, I've already gone on that rant plenty times in this podcast. But so that happened. And then at the very end of the race, despite the team telling him, hey, finish in this order, we're good with it, Lando pulls aside and lets Oscar pass him so that Oscar gets the win, essentially, quote unquote, paying Oscar back for the sprint race that he pulled aside and let Lando win. Okay, whatever. Stand-up guy Lando, I guess. But the other thing I want to talk about, and if there's anything else y'all want to talk about from this, definitely bring it up. But we were just talking about Checo, my guy. This is why it's hard to defend Checo. A man got passed in the pit lane for a sprint race. All right? Checo and Franco Colapinto had to start from the pit lane because they made adjustments to their cars. And when you do that, you can't start on the grid. You start from the pit lane. The light was green and Checo was just chilling. And Franco was like, okay, then right around him. And I'm like, how do you get past in the pit lane, Mike? Like, you're finding new ways to fail. And I can't, it's impossible to defend you right now because I can't, just an F1 driver got passed in the pit lane. I don't know, your name could be anything. And I can't respect you. It doesn't matter. I was so disappointed.
So I want to go back to the Piastri Norris, the kind of teamwork that they had, because I think it was brilliant for them. I think if you look back, we enter the final week with them up, 21 points. They got the max 15 points off the sprint race. That could be the difference in them claiming the Constructors' Championship. And I think it was brilliant the way they did it. And again, being able to let your teammate know, hey, I'm 3 seconds off. I need you to throttle back so I can get within DRS range so that this guy doesn't pass me. They not only they got all 15, the max 15 points, they took points away from other teams that desperately need them to get back into that race. So I thought it was brilliant. And the fact that you had Leclerc and Sainz right behind Russell, and again, Ferrari is that bug. Piastri and Norris did a great job at holding off Russell, but at the same time, they held off Ferrari as well. So they basically got the double win there. They got the 1-2, they got the max points, and they were able to hold off their nearest competitor and basically break them down to 4th and 5th, which is not as many points. So they're able to add that to their lead and kind of pad their lead.
Yeah, I was gonna say not only hold them off, but keep a car between them. That's how you want to do it. And all I'll ask is, where the hell was this teamwork earlier when you were chasing Max? I'm so mad that this wasn't how they were working together. Part of that because Oscar hasn't been great the past few races. Ever since everybody was like, "Ooh, I think Oscar's the number one driver," he was like, "Oh, am I?" And then just trash. Okay. But there were opportunities to get more points for Lando to really put pressure on Max, and they didn't do it. But anyway, we've talked about that enough. Ebony, is there anything, because I know you are a Checo fan. You're looking out for his well-being and his future, his post-race future, which may be very, very, very
His
soon.
post-race future should be after this race.
Any minute now? Yeah.
Actually, it should have been Austin. But
this is why I also hate it, because as I mentioned, I'm a Helmut Marko hater, and sometimes Checo just makes me agree with him. Like, and for that alone, right? You got to get out of here. Yeah.
I'm looking around and I'm like, man, his B2B story is going to be amazing. I'm just every time I see him race this entire season, I just look around and I'm like, is no one looking out for this cry for help? Because he don't want to race no more. He don't. Him and Stroll, they should go paint together. Okay? They should find an island for 2 weeks to talk about all they've done for racing. Stroll can just listen because he ain't done nothing. And then they should just start a book club. You know? They should go pick out suits together. I want the best for Checo, because Red Bull don't love you like that, boo. Like, let it go. Just let him go.
I can hear it now. What failure in F1 taught me about B2B selling.
You got
the
it.
seminar would
head.
be fire.
Oh my gosh, that TED Talk, amazing! I can't wait. It's gonna be 2 hours of him spilling the tea on Red Bull and Max and how he overcame adversity and racism to become the top seller at a Fortune 500. and I can't wait. Oh, poor guy. Oh, and he's not even my gloomy boy today.
Oh my God. Okay. You know what? That's a good reminder, because we are going a bit long, but obviously, again, a lot happened. But anybody else want to talk about anything else from the race weekend? And that includes practice or the sprint qualifying, the Grand Prix, anything like that. I think we've covered a lot, but if there's anything else on your heart, drop it now before we get into Zoomy and Gloomy Boy.
No, I'm ready for Zoomy and Gloomy.
Yeah.
All right. Zoomy Boy, I have made an executive decision. I don't think I even had to make an executive decision for this one. I think this is just all how we're feeling. You know what? I'm going to do this rapid fire, because you'll kind of get the bit in a second. Zoomy Boy of the week is when we celebrate who was that great driver. It obviously ain't who win, but who was that great driver who had a great Grand Prix, and we're focused on the Grand Prix. Donald, your Zoomy Boy.
Zhou.
Ebony.
Joe.
Meghan.
Zhou.
Hell yeah, it was Zhou. Zhou gets it. He gets it. We talked about it. Zhou points. I can't believe it happened. We were there to see it. We lived long enough to see Zhou points in 2024. It's amazing. I'm so glad that it happened. I'm so happy for him too, because honestly, like, a little bit of jokes, but also, like, we know what driving a bad car has done for Lewis in the past few weeks, and his mental state right now. I'm actually kind of really worried about the dude. He does not his quotes are real bad. But Zhou in that kick, that Sauber has been awful. It's awful. He's not only been at the bottom of the grid, but 20 seconds behind, not behind the leader, behind the next car up. It has been really, really, really bad for him all year. And so to see him show that he does have a little bit of talent as an F1 driver, probably more talented as an F1 driver than Mohammed bin Sulayem. Hate to break it to him, but he is a talented driver, and if he's in a decent car with a little bit of luck, he can get into the points and stay there. And I think the staying there part is what's key. All right, let's talk about our gloomy boys, because there are a lot to get to in terms of just really bad, sad performances. And Ebony, you have to start off, because we've talked about it a little bit, but this just makes me sad.
Yeah, my gloomy boy is definitely Lewis this week. He did not have a good race or fun or anything. First, it was the radio call where, is my car broken? And I was just like, Jesus, oh my God. That is just such a wild thing to ask over the radio. Are y'all sure y'all did this right? That hurt me. And then when he had the the penalty where he just had to drive through the pit lane, and he asked to retire the car, and they were like, no, keep driving. And then a lap later, they were like, okay, now you could come in and retire the car. And he was like, no. He finished the race. That's dangerous. Like, he has no trust left. So he's not even listening to the wall. And I don't know if he races next weekend. Like, he's a professional, so he probably will. I don't want him to. I don't think they should let him, especially after ignoring the retire the car and all that jazz. But he's better than me, because I would go full petty scorched earth. Like, let's just get it done. And this is my last race. But yeah, Lewis.
The thing that sucks is Lewis is always kind of an openly emotional dude, and that's one thing that I really respect about him. Like, I really like that. But like, when you're going through something like this where you're changing teams, and this is a team you've been with for such a long time, and they're clearly prioritizing George, as they would, any team would kind of do that. But that team that Lewis is with, they're still going to be operating with another driver, so you still want to make sure that like the standard doesn't dip too much. So, but the way it's ending is really sad, and it's really messing with Lewis's, like, it sounds like it's messing with his mental health quite a bit. He's talking about how slow he is, that he's just not quick anymore. He's just not fast anymore, and he doesn't know what it is. They asked if it's a car. He was like, no, I don't know. I'm not sure. And it's just like a dude with that many titles, that many championships, who's going to be an absolute legend and are already in arguments as the best ever. He shouldn't be feeling this way at the end of his career. Like, it's his Mercedes career, not his total career. I just hope that this is recoverable by the time he gets a Ferrari, because that Ferrari looks like, at the right track, it can be quick. And we saw what him and Charles could do in that sprint race when they were battling each other. I want to see more of that. It was cordial. It was great racing. And if they have two quick cars, they can be doing that for podium positions. And that's exactly what I want to see all of next year, or the majority of next season, because I feel like a motivated Lewis has one more championship in him, which they'll call his 8th, but I'm going to call his 9th, and y'all know why. But I just hope that this isn't lasting for Lewis. I feel really bad for him. Okay, Meghan, your gloomy boy or boys?
Yeah, this is just like a more metaphysical one. The driver's trust in the FIA. They gotta be considering, if this shit continues next season, if they're gonna have to do a work stoppage, because it's just getting really out of hand and unsafe, not only for them, but for fans and spectators and employees.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% right. Like, I do think the drivers are really close to being like, we have to do something to stop this, because that dude, again, he is not leading the way that he should. And it ruined one of the races of the season, or what could have been, with a Constructors' Championship on the line. Who knows what could happen? And that's tens of millions of dollars for one team or another. And I just think that at some point, the drivers might have to look at this and be like, all right, what can we do to force a change at the top? Donald, your gloomy boy.
My gloomy boy is Checo. He gets retired in the Grand Prix. As you mentioned, he gets passed in pit lane in the sprint, finishes dead last. I feel like Ebony, it really is his biggest fan, because she has a very optimistic outlook about his B2B career. I have extreme doubts that he, just based on how he has been driving all year, I have extreme doubts at what he can do with B2B. I would not trust him. I don't think he could be hired to drive the float at the Macy's Thanksgiving parade. That is how bad he is driving right now. And the problem with it is that he has one more race to go to somehow maybe pull a rabbit out of his hat and show that he should remain on the grid. But this man, I don't know what he's thinking or looking forward to, but it definitely isn't driving, because the way that this guy has been driving is so gloomy that I don't know what he can do next. I don't even think he could be on F3. That's the type of performances he's been doing lately. This was no exception.
Yeah, no, we've talked about Checo, and it almost feels like it would be mercy now. Yeah, just get him out of there. Like, it's like what is it, that Wesley Snipes meme? You know, you just gotta shed the tear and put him out of his misery. It's a wrap.
Mm-hmm.
All right, mine. I hate to do this, I really do. because he's been my guy, and I've liked watching him, and I've talked about it before. He pops up in Q3 pretty frequently. Nico Hülkenberg. It's a rough one. It's a rough one. It's not good. He did not have a good race. He DNF'd in this one. Again, I like that Zhou got points, but Magnussen was 9th. Hülkenberg probably could have finished ahead of him, maybe even ahead of Alonso. I don't know. Hülkenberg can finish quite high in that Haas. The fact that he didn't means that with Gasly's 5th place, Alpine now has 59 points. They're back in 6th place. Haas, 54 points. They are 5 points away, and there's only one Grand Prix left. This could be really, 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 really consequential for Hulk that he did not stay in this race and he did not get points. Because if they can't get back to 6, which they had entering this weekend, this would be a really tough one. And they have RB behind them with 56 points, so there's an 8-point gap. Don't really expect, like we said, Liam Lawson is struggling, so they really kind of only have Yuki that may get them some points. But there's a lot to try to figure out, especially if Gasly is going to keep hooping in that Alpine. You really need K-Mag and you need Hulk in the points. You need both those drivers to do it. And if Gasly is still getting top 5 finishes somehow, they've lost their opportunity to secure 6th. And I feel like that's really unfortunate. So I don't love the race that he had, and I'm really kind of sad about it because he's been so good all season.
Can I end on a very silly note?
Please do.
Okay, so if you would like some silly social media fun time, Yuki Tsunoda was asked in the post-race press conferences, our media availability, by motorsport.com if he had seen the mirror on the track. And Tsunoda said, "Was it a mirror? I heard it was a beaver. My engineer said there's a beaver, but why is there a beaver in the Middle East? Like, how is it possible a beaver is in the Middle East? But okay, maybe there's a surprise with global warming, kicking a lot of interesting things in the earth." And I just saw somebody retweet that with that polar bear meme, and it says, "What the hell is a beaver doing in the Middle East?" And it says, "Yuki contemplating the effects of global warming mid-race." And I just want everyone to know that Yuki Tsunoda is out here fighting for the planet while racing his car. That's definitely damaging the planet, but we'll ignore that fact.
Listen, Yuki is asking the questions that need to be asked. I'm here for it.
And now I just want to Google if there are beavers anywhere in the Middle East. Like maybe the Nile River had some beavers I wasn't aware of. Maybe they're the sworn enemies of the crocodiles. I don't know.
This man is out here trying to save the beavers of the Middle East, and the beavers of North America are just simply saying, "Damn."
Wow. Yeah, tomato.
I had to do it. I'm going to head out.
If it wasn't your birthday, I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to cut your mic off. They did a feature before. I'm sorry. We do need to get out of here, but they did a feature before the race on Yuki. And Yuki, I love that dude. Like, he's got such, like, toddler energy that it's great. And it's not just because he's short, but it's just like all right. This I promise it'll just be a quick story. I was at a couple weeks ago. It was the beginning of November. One of my nieces was having a birthday party, and they went to one like little gym. They like had a little space in like a little gym, and a bunch of her friends were there. She just turned 4, and so kids just run for no reason. Doesn't matter. They don't want nothing. They're just running. Kids have a lot of energy, so they just run. And I'm not used to being around a bunch of kids because I don't have any kids. And so I told my mom, I was like, it's fascinating to me that kids will just run for they'll just turn around and just take off running. I'm like, if I do that, something's wrong. Follow me. Like that's that's how that works. Yuki just runs places. He's jumping over fences. He just has such like little kid energy that is kind of adorable. And he's also a very fast driver. And I don't understand why Red Bull can't find that marketable. That dude is hella marketable. He is great. And I want to see him at a team that respects him.
Yeah, no notes.
You don't want to make another damn joke or nothing? Like,
damn.
Why would you give him the opportunity?
I mean, I thought it was coming. I just felt like, I thought that's how we were going to end because we did it the first time. My bad. All right, we need to get out of here. Thanks for listening, all 15 of you. And we will be back to preview the last race of the season, which is Abu Dhabi. We'll probably in that preview try to avoid complaining about 2021. We might not succeed. We'll see what happens. But we'll preview that race. We'll review that race, and then in the off season, we got a lot of fun stuff coming. We got a lot of good things. I think we're going to do more of our rookie seasons where we get a bit more in-depth looks at the teams' histories. We're going to do a review of Driver to Survive whenever that drops. The episode for this race is either going to be like 20 hours long or about 16 seconds, because however the FIA rolls. And we'll preview some of that. I want to rewatch Senna and talk about that because I think that dude was amazing and I love that documentary. So we have a lot of things that we want to do. Maybe we'll get some interviews. We're going to try and grow this thing and do some stuff in the off season to do so. But until then, one more race left in the season. Thanks y'all for listening. For Ebony, for Donald, for Meghan, we're out of here. Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.